So what were some of my favorite things on my most recent Louisville trip? Let's answer that. So I recently was in Ohio for a few weeks and then met some friends in Louisville. That was a planned trip, and it got me thinking. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a few of the things that I enjoyed doing in Louisville. We'll start this with a spring edition now, and then continue to add through updates and give you guys fresh perspective on things that either I've already done and just can't highlight in this video, or maybe something I do in future Louisville trips that we want to add to this list. So let me first kind of get past, I've done a number of things in Louisville and I can't simply cover them all in this video. Certainly you're welcome to comment below on which things you enjoy doing, and let's start a conversation about that, because I think that's what this is all about. Louisville's such a fun city, especially for bourbon, but for a lot of other things. We're gonna leave that to the side for now, but we will mention one thing that isn't directly bourbon related on this video. So let's get into it. I could easily probably make this a best of list, but I'm staying away from that because I think there's so many things I haven't done yet that would be pretty dangerous. But what I will say is one of the things that's a must do for me every time I'd get in town, Evergreen Liquors Nulu. Now, when you step in there, yes, it is a full-fledged liquor store, but they are allowed to serve you alcohol in store. And so what they choose to do with a number of their allocated products and some of the more sought-after products is put it on their bar and serve it to you. And in my opinion, it's one of the best places to get a number of the more current bottles. I'll talk to some older bottles later. A little teaser there for you. Anywhere I know of. And that's not just in Louisville, that's anywhere. I mean, for instance, I got to try Jack Daniel's 12 for $15. Now, some will say it might not have been a 2-ounce pour. That's okay. I have no problem with it. I was able to try it. You know what? It hadn't hit the Florida market until I just got home recently. So I wouldn't even have had a chance down here to try it. Also, one of the friends that was with me on this trip got a chance to try Heaven Hill 20, was on their bar. Admittedly, wasn't the $15 I just mentioned to you. It was a lot more than that. But I got to try it and, now doesn't really want to seek a bottle out because he's had a chance to try it and wasn't quite blown away by it. That's okay. That's no knock on Heaven Hill, but it's just wonderful that we have a place like Evergreen that you can go and try. Now, if you're going there for their bottle selection, I will say they do have a nice supply of bottles that are shelf bottles, things of that nature. They do have an allocated cabinet, and I do understand that on occasion they do have more higher allocated things for sale, but it's not going to be your place for that necessarily all the time. So keep that in mind. This is a spot for drinking, in my opinion. Now, not heavily, right? We can't go get smashed at a liquor store, although I'm not here to tell you what to do. But Evergreen Nulu, and I believe all the Evergreen locations, just haven't been any of them, definite must stop if you're in Louisville. Now, the next one is the one I mentioned at the top, to be very honest with you. It's not quite bourbon related, although we could probably find a way to make it bourbon related, but realistically it's not. 2 weeks before the Kentucky Derby, there's an event in downtown Louisville called Thunder Over Louisville. So let me break it down for you this way. Do you like air shows with fighter aircraft like F-16s, F-18s, F-35s, and vintage aircraft? If you checked yes there, okay, keep listening. If you didn't, that's okay, keep listening too. Do you like the largest display of fireworks in the United States? Or fireworks in general? If you checked yes there, you have 2 checks, and this is a must go to for you. Admittedly, we didn't see a lot of the air show that day because we were down in Bardstown enjoying some other things that the trail has to offer, but we did see something cool on the way back into downtown. We saw one of the F-35 exhibitions and saw this thing look like it was some just predator stalking its prey. We're coming around the airport on 65, if you're familiar, and I just see this thing kind of go up on its nose and just like drift, kind of like a Tokyo drift. Now, it's probably all happened over 2 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. And it was like it was just stalking whatever was below it. And you see a little plume from the engine kick back on and just dove straight down. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. The hair on my arm standing up right now, just talking about it. And so, again, if you like those 2 things and you don't mind crowds, it is for you for sure. So just a little feather in the cap. And by the way, I think having all the crowds in Louisville might have also drawn out some decent bottles for us all as well. So the next thing on my list is actually what I consider the best basic tour of any distillery that I've ever been to. And that's the tour at Old Forester. Now, this tour is vat to glass. So you're not gonna get the farm experience. You're not necessarily gonna get actually the making the mash experience, but from essentially everywhere where it's brought in and it's in a vat state where it's still fermenting and beginning that fermentation process all the way through to the end where it's put in the barrel is done there at that site. And yes, that includes a cooperage. So I'm not gonna really put a ton of B-roll in here to ruin it for you because I think there's so many cool moments there, but it really is for $30 just an amazing tour. And at the end, you do get a sampling. Now, they typically give you the entire Whiskey Row series, the 1870, the 1897, the 1910, 1920. On this particular tour, this is why I mentioned I think they pulled out some special things for the weekend for the Thunder over Louisville. Instead of the 1897, we got to try the most recent 117 series, the Warehouse H. And I'll probably cover that a little bit differently on the channel here later, so we'll leave a review for later. But it was a welcome addition to be able to try that. Also, then we, for being on the tour, had a chance to purchase bottles of that as well. Was not open to the public that day, was not open to anybody but was on that tour. So again, if you're looking at these things, you're thinking about these weekends where I just mentioned, like Thunder over Louisville, some of the bottles keep coming out. I didn't include Michter's this time, but we also got some special bottles at Michter's too. Shanks and the Toasted Sour Mash. So, little special bottles. So again, kind of wrapping everything together. Old Forester's a star here. If you haven't been, absolutely one of the best tours. George's Bar also. I mean, I can extend this and go on and on. You got a chance to try birthday bourbon if you want. You can get a wonderful old-fashioned cocktail, which I think was one of the better old fashions I had on the trip, to be really honest with you, and really reasonably priced. And so just a complete experience for me. Old Forester is got a lot going on. There are a number of great distilleries downtown, so please don't think that I think Old Forester is the best distillery, just that particular tour. Now, number 4 is not something I can actually quantify, and I probably won't run a lot of B-roll, so it'll probably be pretty quick. It's the people. When you step into any sort of whiskey establishment and you're sitting down next to the people in Louisville, it may be friendly in your hometown. You probably know more people or not, but I don't think anyone really feels like a stranger there. I mean, you're going to sit up and kick up a conversation with the guy next to you because the bartender might say something and you hear it, and it's all good. I mean, unless you're an obnoxious jerk or something like that, that's a whole different topic. Please don't be that person. But the main thing is everyone's there to enjoy good whiskey. So that just generally lends to a great atmosphere. The other thing about the people that I'll wrap up really quickly is this happened to be just a crazy weekend where not only were we as whiskey tubers up there, but there was also a few others. In fact, David and Jamie from Whiskey Row invited us over to their bottle share and whatnot. I know Sean and Dan were in from Bourbon Junkies. I actually met Sean. We went over to Justin House of Bourbon real quick, saw him there. So, just if you want to see Whiskey 2 people, they're almost always there. I think Jason C was there from Mash and Drum the day before. I don't think that's the main draw while you're probably going to Louisville. I think if you asked any one of us, you'd probably say we're not the reason you're probably here in general. It's the whiskey, but again, another part of the whole community that you could potentially, that was a lisp. But again, another part of the whole community that could be something that's a good part of your experience. So the last thing I want to bring up that I want to kind of document here for you guys and put this down as not only just the sum of this particular trip, but from all of my experiences, is Neat Bourbon and Bottle Bar. I brought up the point earlier when I was talking about Evergreen Nulu, where they're the best to get the current selection of items that have hit the market. Well, if that's the case there, Neat currently is going to be the place to go and get all the Dusties. That's not to say they don't have current selection. They do have some, and that's not to say they don't have barrel picks. They certainly do. But you're going there for Dusty products. And, some of it's very priced like you would think. Certainly, if you're reaching back and you're getting a bottle from the 1960s, you're probably going to pay quite a pretty penny for a pour. But they also have some things that don't exactly break the bank. I mean, under $20 pours. And these are things that are probably going to be pretty daggone good. I mean, things were just made differently in the 70s and 80s, and the materials, the wood from the trees was older. The water was 50 years ago, maybe had a slightly different content, although Kentucky limestone, nobody jumped me on this one. I know it's still great, but let's be honest, 50 years later, there's gotta be some difference in the chemicals a little bit in the water and things of that nature, just because we're a different society than we were 50 years ago. So Neat Bottle Bar, if nothing else, stop in and at least see it. I mean, you guys are probably seeing the B-roll now, and it's decked out. It's beautiful. If nothing else, it's a piece of history. You can go look at this and see all these old bottles, have a chance to try one. It is honestly on my list that I stop almost every time through. And sure, I'd love to go next door and have the budget to buy, as many bottles as I wanted. That's just not reality all the time. We did pick up one thing for the haul video that's going to be coming out soon, so let's wait for that one. I'm pretty excited about it. Neat Bottle Bar, definitely a place you guys want to stop by. So please let me know if you guys kind of enjoyed these kind of reviews of saying where I'm at currently on the things I enjoyed on trips that I go on. I'd love to hear more about yours. We're going to update these from time to time. I plan to be in Louisville at least one more time this year, maybe twice. Maybe don't update it every time, but at least give you guys something cool. If I run across something that I think needs added, or run across something that I want to update that replaces one of these things I just mentioned to you, then by all means, I might jump out and make another video. But I'd like to start doing this as the focus of the channel, start getting more of the lifestyle ideas of things. Certainly we'll still have some reviews. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And I can't thank you guys enough for supporting the channel and being interactive. I feel like every time I post a video, I get so many comments, and it's so great to actually hear people actually watching and enjoying, or, you know, I've had a couple good constructive feedbacks too. Please, I'll take it all. So until next time, guys, cheers.